Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our weekly question and answer session. So we only had 13 questions, and we now have 11 questions, which means there's good questions. Some long questions, which well, I wanted to say, well, that's probably a bad thing because it means maybe you're thinking a lot, but actually no. You have to explain sometimes. Not all questions are one-sentence questions, so that's okay. But be careful your questions don't get too theoretical. So first question is from Robin. She says, a layperson becomes aware of a monk acting very strangely, posting extensive statements online implying that members of a particular religion have poisoned and sickened him and many, many others. Are you talking about me? When I first read this, I thought, oh, I wonder if she's talking about me. No, I was just kidding. But I do often criticize other religions. I don't think that's what you're referring to here. I mean, I try not to be too critical, but for those that I'm familiar with, I mean, even the Buddha was critical of other religions. So if it's just a matter of criticism, it's not necessarily a wrong thing. The Buddha was quite harsh in his criticism of other religious teachers, the ones who had it all wrong. The ones who were fools, he called fools. The teachings that were foolish, he called foolish. And so on. But so your question is, what should a layperson do? I mean, we should broaden this out to ask, what should a layperson do? Well, first let's address your question as being, what should a layperson do when they see a monk do something that, generally is problematic, let's say. Could be harmful to the monk, could be harmful to others. In this case, it appears to be harmful on a broader social scale. What it's doing to society, adding fuel to an already tense ethnic situation and giving people wrong ideas. What should a layperson do? I think it's a bit of a red herring. I want to say that a better question is, what should a layperson do when a person is engaging in this kind of activity? Because I think it's important that we don't exempt monks from the consequences of bad behavior, or the consequences of their behavior. I don't think it serves any purpose to ignore the bad deeds of a monk. So you might want to, out of respect for the Buddha and the Sangha, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, treat the monk with respect when you address the problem. But that doesn't mean you should address the problem any differently. Maybe instead of saying, hey, you stop that, you might say, hey, Venerable Sir, don't do that. Or something like that. Be a little polite, because the politeness comes from your respect for the robes. But the question is whether you really should ever tell someone, don't do that. And I don't think that's all that different. I mean, you might, there are different roles, like you'd be more in the right to tell your child, hey, don't do that, than you would be to tell your parent, hey, don't do that. So I think in general we just have to, as far as I'm interested in answering this question, I would bear it down or boil it down to the two. Your question is, we have a few questions, but first we'll address the rightness, right? What is the right thing to do? So there are two kinds of rightness, and that's all I'm going to say about that part of the question. And the one is, of course, the rightness. Right for what? Right for attaining enlightenment. So how do you know it's right? As if it is supportive of your development and your practice leading to enlightenment. The other kind of right is a duty, a right based on duty. So it's right to treat your parents with respect, it's right to care for your children, it's even right, you could say, to have some social responsibility, political involvement, that sort of thing. These are all right in a conventional sense, and they're not ultimately right. So they can be contravened by someone practicing to become enlightened. They are, they are superseded by the practice of enlightenment. So they don't actually have any intrinsic rightness, but there's a rightness to them because they create a orderly society, and a society that is if done right, is supportive of the meditation practice. I mean, contravening them tends to lead to chaos and disturbance, distraction, stress, and so on. It leads to greater potential for the arising of defilements. So your other parts, does the monastic sangha have a policy on mental illness? Yes, there are rules about mental illness. A monk who is mentally ill can't be held responsible for their actions, but that means they've gone crazy. If a person is mentally sick, in terms of they have bad paranoias or so on, well, that is really a good question. It's a shame that they got ordained. I think there might be even a encouragement for them to disrobe, because they clearly can't benefit, or they can't carry out their activities. I mean, you can't force a monk to disrobe. I mean, there are in Buddhist countries they do, but it's not according to the Vinaya. But I think it would be encouraged, and perhaps that monk would eventually be expelled from the sangha if they couldn't maintain that. I mean, because the idea would be, are they breaking rules or not breaking rules? If they're breaking rules, then that's where it would become a problem. I mean, in this case, it sounds like this person is perhaps paranoid, perhaps delusional, perhaps breaking small, minor rules, but honestly, I wouldn't take it so seriously. There are far worse things that a monk can do, and that, from what I hear, monks in certain places do. So simply voicing a political opinion or an opinion about religions, or claiming things, I mean, if he's lying, that's breaking a rule. If he's saying things that are not actually happening, and it's not just a deluded belief. But that's really something for the monastic community. I mean, the only one who has a responsibility to address these monks as a duty is the other monk. So as a layperson, it's not your duty to do that. So that's where the right comes in. I mean, there's really no occasion that I can think of where someone who has very little relation to you, where the instruction or the addressing of their problems is going to support you towards your enlightenment, and so it's not right in that sense. But as a duty, it's also not right, because as a layperson, you really have no connection with them in terms of, this is a person I should take care of, except, to support them, to give them food and so on. And you do that for the sangha as a whole, and you do that for the monks who are behaving properly. So withholding food, that's the big one that lay people engage in. If a monk is acting inappropriate, it's called overturning the bowl. Isn't it? No, that's the other way around, where a monk overturns the bowl in the sense that they don't accept food from lay people. For lay people, they just withhold food, and that's a sign that they don't support this monk or their behavior. And so the other part of the question, can a monk be forced to disrobe? The only thing that can force a monk to disrobe is breaking the four great rules, and being crazy, unfortunately, isn't one of them. It's interesting. I can't remember exactly what is said, or can't think of anything particular that's said about what to do if a monk is clinically insane. It might be something to look up, but that's a monastic thing. Again, not something that lay people should be concerned with. It's just like you shouldn't be concerned with the Pope or his dealings, or you shouldn't be concerned with the Dalai Lama, or you shouldn't be concerned with any things that don't concern you. There's no duty there, and so it's not even a functional right to do it. I mean, I know there is a connection, because you call yourself Buddhist and you call this monk Buddhist, and so you think, well, I have a relationship, but really I wouldn't make too much of that. I would think, well, this person is in another group of people, the monks, and I know that what I do for monks is give them food, but I'm not going to give food to that monk because he's not behaving properly. That's about it. There's not much reason to do much else that I can think of. In fact, sometimes doing things is what it aggravates the situation, because then you get conflict and you get more stress and suffering. If I meet close relatives, they tell me many times that I talk so little. I don't feel the need to join their chatter about other people and stuff that doesn't really concern me. I don't want to tell them because it would hurt them. Is it enough to just be mindful and still and don't speak, or should I participate and just being careful about right speech? Well, the thing about meditation is the people you surround yourself will change, and so you might not want to surround yourself with close relatives, because what does it mean? What does the word mean? It's just a concept, really. It's a description, it's a label for a particular set of circumstances, none of which really have much to do with enlightenment or happiness or freedom from suffering. So, there is power in family. Having a close family is a great blessing, the Buddha said. It's a conventional thing. There's no question that having relatives who will support you unconditionally is a good thing, in a worldly sense. But there's no closeness beyond that. Like, real closeness only comes from closeness of attitude, behavior, personality type, that sort of thing. Ambitions, goals. But you get a lot. What's the word? You attract more flies with honey than vinegar. That's not quite the proper saying here, but there's no reason to be morose or to be gloomy or to be, what's the word? I guess it's more of an external thing. There's no need to project this sort of zombie state, even though that's a description for a true meditative state. You can be approachable and peaceful. A good thing to remember is to smile once in a while. Even if you don't feel happy, smiling is a communication. It's communicating to the person what you feel inside. I feel okay, and when you smile, it shows them that. So remember, smiling is a form of communication like that. But yeah, there's no reason. You say there's no need to join in the chatter, but there's also no need to not join in some way. Yes, you may not want to talk at all, but smiling and nodding and offering opinions, if that's what's called for. If people are having a conversation and they say something that you disagree with, you don't have to jump in. But if it gets to the point where there's an expectation that you're a part of the conversation, then, speak when it's appropriate. If people want your opinion, then give it. If you don't have an opinion, say you don't have an opinion, smile and nod your head. Again, there's no hard and fast rule. The hard and fast rule is to be mindful. Beyond that, everything else is going to be complicated, and it's going to depend very much on many different conditions and situations. Well, say, reading a book, how should we be mindful of? What should we be mindful of? And how should we incorporate the four satipatthana as well while reading? this is got this question, and I think quite simply, if your intention is to read, your intention is not to be mindful, right? It's unavoidable that we have to do things like read, but because it's a mental activity, you can't be mindful when you're actively reading. Now, in between the reading, you can pop in and out of mindfulness, and it's good to take breaks from the reading for that reason. Read for a bit and then do some meditation for a bit. Bring back your mindfulness. But it's a different mental activity, so you can't be mindful all the time unless you give up all that. If you give up reading during the time when you give up other kinds of mental activity. This is why during meditation we say things like reading are to be limited and hopefully abandoned during the course. Okay, I feel a desire to express frustration, disappointment, or anger because I feel it conveys the actual magnitude and importance of the situation. Right. So the idea is that, the idea presented by this questioner is that there's something that needs to be said, or the anger conveys something right. Like, I'm right, you're wrong, and only the anger disappointment, frustration will convey that. Will make it clear to you. It's like when someone's just behaving like an idiot, you slap them, right? Because the slap is the only thing that's going to get them to wake up. Idiot, like a jerk. Like if someone's really being mean, I'm not proposing this. I'm just saying this is what people do. The anger carries a certain amount of wisdom, right? I disagree with the whole premise here, and I think I'm not saying that you're wrong, you're a bad person, stupid for asking this. It's clear that you're asking my advice. I think you don't reconcile it. I don't think there's really wisdom associated with the anger. I think it's a sign of wrong-headedness to try and convince other people that you're right and they're wrong. Even if you are right and they're wrong, what's the point? So your last part, you say, if I genuinely feel that there is a wrong in the world, there are lots of wrongs in the world, and you're not going to fix that, and you getting angry about it isn't going to fix it. It isn't going to fix the world. It's just going to add more anger. It debases the conversation. If the good people get angry, they're debased. It's what is called stooping to their level. Not to their entire level, but in some way it is. In the way that you're giving rise to unwholesome mind states that are desirous of the harm to others. You want to stress them out. What you have to get rid of is your need to change the world, your need to fix the world, your need to convince other people. Otherwise you'll never be free from things like anger and greed as well, and delusion. How can we express ourselves to convey that wrong to others? That's the thing. I don't see a need to convey the wrong to others. If they ask your opinion, give them your opinion. It's much more powerful, really, because it shows that you are in a whole different realm. These people who are fussing and obsessing and fighting over things, to be outside of that and to be able to not be moved by that is a very powerful thing that can move people, the right people anyway. Here's a question that I think it's been on my mind for a while. This is just it's gone. I pushed the wrong button. Did I delete it? No, it's in answered, right? So this person is Thai, and they recently developed a VR virtual reality application, but even more immersive. So I don't live in Thailand. I can give you my email. My email is just yuttadhammo@gmail.com, but don't tell anybody, because then people will try and email me. You can email me. I don't answer my emails. I think I've put it out on the internet before. I get too many emails and I don't answer most of them. So My defense is I'm a monk, and monks probably shouldn't have email addresses in the first place, but I do, and I just don't answer all of them, most of them. So don't expect an answer if anyone is out to email me. But this one, see, when I was in Thailand, maybe last time or the time before, my uncle, who lives in Thailand, and it's one of the reasons I originally went, his company had purchased a virtual reality, or one of the people working there had purchased a virtual reality system, like the real deal with the headset and everything. And so they showed it to me, and I tried it out, and I ended up on a mountaintop, a cliff, and I was sitting I actually sat down on the carpet, and the air conditioner was blowing on me, so there was a breeze, and I was looking out at the cliff, and there was a little dog, and I could throw a stick for it and that kind of thing. But it was cool. It was a little bit impressive, and it made me think, and I talked to them about this, the idea of having a virtual reality meditation session. I've talked about this, I think, before on the internet, but I'm interested in what you have, and maybe someday we'll have a virtual reality set here, and I can do virtual reality conversations with my students, or I can record I've looked at, you can record virtual reality videos, and then people who watch them can have it be immersive. So there's a little benefit to that idea. I mean, of course, the technological requirements are very steep still, I think. I don't know. And it's fake, right? But there's nothing less real about seeing fake trees than there is about seeing real trees from a Buddhist perspective. So the environment of it, I think there's potential for being in a virtual reality that you can just escape your room and all the clutter in it and all the things that distract you, and listen to someone sit there and teach you, and watch them do walking meditation. I mean, we could do virtual reality walking meditation, demonstrations, and so on. Anyway, interested. Mildly interested. Okay, questions about the booklet. This person has 2 questions. See clearly how we are causing. Should we consciously be aware that causing? So we cause problems by our reactions. So when you say to yourself, angry, what I mean by causing, seeing that how you're causing, is seeing the problem with the anger. Seeing that anger is not useful. When you say to yourself, angry, it's almost indirect, because all it does is create objectivity. But the objectivity that you create from being mindful is going to allow you to see the repeated anger for what it is. Oh, this comes up as a result. Oh, this comes up as a result. Oh, it comes up as a result again. And watching that, you're going to see how wrong it is to get angry, just because it's stressful, because it's useless, because it's unhelpful. So you see it again and again and again, and that's how you're going to understand. I wouldn't, and you've got another question here about understanding, so let's just lump them together if I can. So about understanding that they are also the cause for suffering and stress. I wouldn't put too much emphasis. I mean, the word understand means probably less than you think it does. You're looking for some kind of epiphany or that kind of thing. There are some epiphanies, but it's more just seeing things as they are. I mean, anger is stressful. You are causing stress to yourself. Unless you're enlightened, there is stress in your makeup. You react to things improperly. You leap out after things you want. You push away, run away from, and to try and destroy the things you don't want. You get arrogant, you get conceited, and all this. So observing and learning to be objective is going to show you all of that. It's also going to show you the nature of the things that you react to, that they're not worth reacting to. So there's seeing both. But it's just from watching. And this noting technique is just a means of allowing us to watch, keeping us objective and making us objective, creating this rectitude of mind, this straightness of mind. There was a time when I give talks every night. Am I going to do that again? Not now. I think talking too much and teaching too much is problematic, because it focuses too much attention on the listening, on the theory, on the thinking, and also it's not my idea of where I want to go, to teach too much. You could become a professor in the university, you could become a teacher who teaches every day. Not really how I see myself. Okay, a question about the Dhammapada. This is nice. When I give a video and then people come and ask questions about it for clarification. So the question is about this word, I think it was vitina, what was it? What's the word? Paralokasa. Vitina paralokasa or something. Vitina, or whatever the word was, just means thrown away, discarded. So it's not asking whether, it's not addressing the question of whether this person believes in an afterlife or not. What it means is when you lie, it's one of those things that is the act of throwing away your future. Whether you believe in it or not, the result is the same. So whether this person believes or doesn't is irrelevant. It means they've thrown it away. So and it may be ambiguous. That may even mean that they have no belief in it, right? That they've discarded it. So the reason they're okay with lying is because I don't think so, but I get what you're saying. Like they're lying because they don't believe in an afterlife. They've thrown away that idea, and that's what. But it's not exactly right for the context, because it's just any kind of lie. This woman wasn't lying to the Buddha because she didn't believe in an afterlife necessarily. But I think it's ambiguous because that's a part of it. She can't have any strong knowledge of an afterlife, or else she wouldn't do something so horrible. Although, that's not even true, because there are sects of Christianity, I think, and Islam that believe in afterlife but do horrible things in support of it, or have done horrible things in support of the afterlife, right? So I don't think that's what it's referring to. I think it simply means they've thrown away their future. According to Buddhism, are we allowed to lie to save an innocent person's life? You're allowed to do anything you want. Buddhism is not about disallowing things, but there's consequences. The Buddha laid down a precept not to lie, but it's voluntary. It's voluntary. Anyone who wants to practice the Buddha's teaching should not lie. If they want to say they're following the Buddha's teaching, if they're lying, they're not following the Buddha's teaching. Can meditation... I'm only going to answer the first part of this question because I don't have anything about are you meditating correctly. Read my booklet. You want my advice? Read my booklet. That's all I have to say. Only teach one thing. Don't look to me for advice on anything else. But can meditation alleviate anxiety, mood disorders, and depression? Yes, absolutely. Try reading my booklet, practicing that way. I can guarantee that if you do it properly, it should help with your depression and anxiety and so on. How can one move... Ooh, we've got new questions. Sneaky. How can one move beyond Silabbata Paramasa, become a Sotapanna? Okay, these are new questions. That's not fair. I haven't gone over them. They haven't been vetted yet. So, new questions get answered next week. Yes, that's fair, I think, because they also have to be voted on. Once we get lots of questions, the good ones rise to the top. And I'm less likely, I do sometimes, but I'm less likely to delete questions that have lots of upvotes. But I will. I still will. Buddha is an avatar of Vishnu. Buddha is not an avatar of Vishnu. Buddha is a word for someone who is enlightened. Video output low. I wonder what that means. Okay, that's all for tonight. Thank you all. Have a good night.